The inquiry into Victoria's child protection system will report back to government next month. A similar inquiry in the United Kingdom, led by Professor Eileen Munro from the London School of Economics, found a system choked by red tape that's wasting the time of workers. Professor Munro was in Melbourne this week, where she met with Community Services Minister Mary Wooldridge. I asked Professor Munro if Victoria's system has similar problems to the UK and what needs to be done.
The public have to stop expecting perfection. The kind of decisions you're making in child protection is you're really balancing a very, very difficult equation between what are the dangers and the benefits of leaving a child in the birth family, what are the dangers and the benefits of taking them into out-of-home care. And you make the judgment about what at this moment looks the best avenue for the child. But life goes on and factors change, so you can't predict that this will be the safe option. And so, with the best professional judgment in the world, you cannot control the future. And we have to stop expecting them to make children safe. You can expect them to make children as safe as possible, to make them safer than they would be if there were no service. But we have to get away from that language of certainty and guarantees.
You've talked about the assumption that child welfare workers are often assumed to be incompetent or lazy. But isn't that a fair assumption, given that there are regular cases where children have been known to authorities and their lives haven't been able to be improved or saved?
Well, it would be a fair assumption if when you looked at the case you found the woman had been sitting at her desk doing her knitting, but that isn't what you find. They have got heavy caseloads. They are busy meeting the regulations and complying with what they're told to do, so that they don't have the time to focus on the child. And even if they were doing the best work possible, as I said before, they cannot guarantee that that child will be safe.
So what's the answer then? I mean, obviously the workers aren't there sitting there doing the knitting. We know that child protection workers are overloaded and stressed out. Do we need more of them?
We need more skilled workers with the space to focus on children instead of having to focus on compliance with this gigantic set of regulations that you've created. So I think it is much more to do with both having the expertise and the freedom to exercise it. Developing the skills to help families change. In areas in England where they have invested in helping the workers to get therapeutic skills, to actually help families change their behaviour, you very rapidly start to save money because you need to remove fewer children. You've helped the family become a safer place and fewer of them get re-referred.
Is that what you've recommended to the Minister here?
I have been talking about that, and I've been giving her some of the figures from research on how much money is saved by actually focusing on helping children rather than focusing on compliance.
We've had many inquiries here in Victoria over the last few decades, and particularly in the last couple of years there's been a number of very highly critical reports. What will another inquiry, as we have going on right now, achieve?
If they do a radical rethink, then I think they could do something fantastically creative. If they just come up with suggesting we have even more rules and regulations, then that's just turning it further into a compliance, and it's a system that people don't enjoy working in. Because another of the findings in the areas which have put their focus on developing the therapeutic skills of the workers is that the workers stay. They enjoy their work. They go home at night thinking they've done something useful. And so you save a lot of money in having a turnover of staff.
One child protection worker has been quoted in a newspaper here as saying the whole system needs to be bulldozed and rebuilt. Is that what's called for? You
can't bulldoze it. You can't have a complete vacuum. But you do have to have a radical rethink of what are your priorities and what are the things that are driving it in the wrong direction, so that how to put in the factors that push it in the right direction. And in fact, here in Victoria, over the past few years, you've put in a lot of the right factors, but because you've got such a mountain of regulations, all those little bits aren't able to come together and create the kind of expert service that it could be.
So we have a mountain of regulations, just as the UK does. And was the Minister, Mary Wooldridge, receptive to your ideas?
She found them very interesting. I was very impressed by her enthusiasm and interest in this subject area. To her, it's really important to try and improve it.
There's been a recent trend here for the minister or the department to actually refuse to comment on individual cases, no matter how shocking or controversial they may be, citing privacy reasons, even if the child isn't identified beyond an age or sex. Do you think that's a good trend or a bad trend?
I think it's a bad trend, and it's something that I had a specific recommendation about in my review, that the Child Protection Service in overall has to become much more willing to talk to the public and the media about the work they do, so that although when there's a horrific case they may feel inhibited about certain details, they can at least tell the public the kind of factors that they consider, the kind of decisions that they're facing, why they might go one way rather than the other, so that the public have a greater understanding of the kind of problems that they face. So when they become very defensive, it makes people feel they've got something to hide.
And if there is one message that you could send to the current inquiry happening right now in Victoria, what would it be?
Try to destroy the compliance culture and get the focus back on helping children.
Professor Munro, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.